Okay, so I'm obviously very new at this. I started recording, or at least I thought I did, but it didn't record. So we're going to start again. I've already gotten started here. I have a frame that's already cut to 3¼ by 3¼ so that is what I have taped off, and I've decided to draw a coffee mug today, and we're gonna make it kind of an herbal coffee. So I had the privilege of having rosemary coffee the other day, which was pretty delicious, and so I figured I would make a rosemary cup of coffee for this painting. So we'll see how that goes. Trying to make my saucer symmetrical. I always have a hard time with symmetry when it comes to things that are oblong. I don't know why. One side always ends up pointier than the other side. I guess I need more practice. Let's see here. We are going to have a nice and full cup of coffee. I do want it to have some bubbles in it like it was just freshly poured. So I'm going to draw lots of little circles here along my edge of where this is coming along. So we'll do that. And we're going to put in a couple of sprigs of rosemary. Now rosemary has like all of these long, thin leaves that go to it. So I'm gonna try and give it that look. Hopefully that will come through when I start adding the watercolor, because it does go all around the stem. It's not just like on two sides. You have it coming towards the front and towards the back. And it does get a little bit wider as you go down. So we're gonna do that, and maybe we will have a couple of those thin rosemary leaves having fallen off of the sprig and sitting down here on the plate. Okay, so there's that. And then should I draw a few coffee beans so that we know it's coffee and not tea? Maybe. Does it matter? It's artistic. We'll go ahead and add them in. Oh, but then that's 4 items down there. I like odd numbers. Let's make one more coffee bean, and then there we go. That's 5. 1, 2 leaves, 1, 2, 3 coffee beans. Probably nobody else cares but me. Okay, so let's see. Let me try and fix that corner. Okay, we're gonna go with that is going to be our sketch. I'm still not loving this side. Did I make this? This looks like this is coming up too high. Let's fix this. Hold on. Okay. Now it looks like it goes straight across and not like it's skewed. Of course, if it was skewed, I could just say, oh, I meant it to be that way, right? Just kidding. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and get started here. I think I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use, how about this one? What size is this? Okay, I'm going to use this number 7 round. Alrighty, so I got my number 7 round here, and I think what I want to do first is add in my background. So I'm gonna just wet the entire background, and it's gonna be really, really light. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get that wet with water. I'm tracing around my mug so that it's not as easy for the water and the colors that I'm gonna add to it to flow into the mug area. So water likes to take the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance will be where it is already wet. So if I avoid my mug and my saucer and all the other things as I'm kind of priming my paper here with water so that I can do a nice wet and wet technique here, it will flow where the water already is instead of into where I have my drawing. because I still haven't decided what color that mug is going to be. But if I decide that it's white, which I'm kind of leaning towards, I do not want to have a wash of color in the background, because then it will not be as pure and it'll be a lot more difficult to save that white highlight. So, okay, I've got that nice and wet, and I think that I want to do maybe some grayish blues and some browns in my background. And I want it to be fairly light, so I'm not going to pick up just a ton of color here. We're just going to let this do its thing. I'm going to let the water kind of dictate where it wants to go. And I'm just going to kind of dab in this color so that it blooms out. And then that might be too much water, but we'll just let it do its thing. And we're going to add a little bit more of this kind of grayish blue in this zone. And maybe over in here, add a little bit more of this brown. I feel like we are losing some wetness on the paper, so we're going to re-wet that. I'm going to pick up more of this brown color and just let it kind of dot that in. Let it bloom out, do what it's going to do. Drop some water on it to help it along. Same thing here. I'm going to let all of those colors kind of bleed together. All right, I think I also want to have some of this brown over here. Oh, not wet enough. Let's help that along. Add a little bit more water and just kind of touch that in and help it to maybe blend out a little. I don't want any really harsh lines, but I want it to be pretty subtle. I do want both of these colors in here though. So I want both those blues and those browns, or grays and browns, kind of all around. That is two. There we go. All right, I'm going to pause this here and let this dry. We'll be right back. Okay, it's dried a little bit. We'll let it continue to dry while we continue with our painting. So I have decided that I do want this mug to be white, but since we are still kind of waiting on the background to dry a little bit, I'm going to do parts that don't really touch the background. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the coffee that is inside of the cup. So I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to start where my rosemary sprigs enter the cup, because I want to be able to leave a little bit of space, some white there for those stems to go in. I'm actually going to go pretty dark with this coffee. I don't want it to really have a lot of cream in it. While I do drink my coffee with cream in it from time to time, lately I've been drinking it more black, less cream in it. So I'm going to start off kind of light, but then we're going to build this brown color up to show the coffee being a coffee that does not really have a lot of cream in it. So I'm going to try and trace around my bubbles with this brown. I'm using the very, very tip of my number 7 round brush, and I'm just kind of tracing around the little bubbles that we have that have formed on the edge of the cup when the coffee was poured. So that's what I have there. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up some Payne's Gray to mix in with my brown, and just the teeniest bit of ultramarine blue to add to that as well, in order to really darken it up. So that is Payne's Gray, Ultramarine Blue, and then I've got like this reddish brown that I do not remember what the color is called. But those are the three colors that I've mixed together. And we're gonna go ahead and come back in here and paint. I still have quite a bit of water in my brush, so it's still going to come across as being pretty transparent and maybe not as dark, but that's okay because I do want there to be like a little, I know it seems kind of strange maybe, but I want there to be like a couple of little highlights in the coffee where maybe the light is shining down. I may change my mind and fill those in later, but we'll see. So I'm going to do that like so. Retrace around some of these bubbles, making sure to leave as much of the white as possible. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna go one more shade darker just again. This time I'm gonna add more ultramarine blue and more Payne's Gray to my brown. I'm gonna use a little bit less water. And then right here along the front edge of the cup is where I'm going to darken that up the most. So I'm going to put this really nice dark brown color that I've made here, not forgetting to go in between the rosemary sprigs. And then I'm just going to fade that up into my coffee, like so. And go around some of the bubbles, like so. There we go. Now we've got some pretty dark coffee going on there. Okay. You know what? I don't like the highlights. I think they probably should have had more of a curve to them, so we're just going to go ahead and cover them up. We'll just let this be like little bubbles. You know, sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm feeling it, and then other times you're like, nope, not feeling it. Yep, that's what happened. Nope, not feeling it. And that's okay. Okay. Here's the inside of my coffee mug. All right. So I did decide that I wanted this cup and saucer to be white, but even our white is not going to be pure white. We're going to make ourselves a little bit of some gray, some greenish gray in here to make kind of our shadows. Let's see here. I think that I want the light source to come from this direction and push my shadows this direction. So my light source is going to be on the left and it's going to push my shadows toward the right. So if it's shining this way, then over on this side is where I will have more shadows. It's shining this way. The cup is going to cast a little bit of a shadow, maybe if it comes down this way. Okay, so if I want my white cup to have a shadow line over here because it's darker, this is where the light is not shining. I'm going to just kind of do this and then clean off my brush and blend that out. Blend it out to white. I am going to put just a little bit of this color here. Now, if it is shining this way, then this side of the cup in the inside would be lighter, and that means that this side over here on the inside of the cup would be darker. So we will do kind of that, right? And then we have the handle, and the handle is completely on the dark side, so we're just gonna go ahead and give it some shadow over most of it, trying to kind of outline the shape of the handle, like so, maybe leaving a little bit of a highlight where the light maybe would touch it. Okay, so it's doing that. Okay, so the light would kind of hit this, but it would get darker down here. gonna shine. Let's just kind of outline. Just gonna outline where this saucer indentation is, like so. Okay, we're gonna give that a little darkness there. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here, leaving a space for highlight. Right. And then our cup itself, if it's casting a shadow, let's mix up a nice little shadow color. Make it a lot darker where the cup is going to be kind of casting its shadow, maybe like so. Leave a white spot where the edge of it would be, and then maybe the rest of the cup is kind of making a shadow like that. I don't know. Sometimes my brain can imagine what this looks like, sometimes it can't, and that's okay. We are giving the impression of a cup sitting on a saucer. Okay, I am gonna have to go in and make some of these shadow lines a little darker. Otherwise, it will not make sense. It won't read right. You won't be able to differentiate. It just all looks kind of the same. So I added some more Payne's gray to this color that I made. And we're gonna also do some Payne's gray right up underneath here. We're gonna let that fade out. I'm gonna soften that edge like so. Okay, I'm gonna leave that be for now. Let's come over here and work on the sprigs. I want them to be a nice kind of, I mean a rosemary green because it's rosemary, but maybe kind of an olive green. And I want to add to it, I do want it to be a little bit muted. I'm actually going to add a little purple. I'll add a little bit of purple to my olive green to make kind of a greenish brown, or to really mute my purple, mute my green color. Okay, so sorry, I know you can't see what I'm doing. I will try and get a setup where I can show you my palette and everything as I'm doing all of this. Okay, so I've loaded up some olive green that I have muted down with some purple. We're going to go ahead and get this stem in here like so, and then this one here as well, just drawing kind of that center stem. And then I'm just going to use my brush to kind of trace around everywhere where I drew those blades of the rosemary branch. I'm not worrying about shadowing or anything right now. I'm just putting down a base color of this muted olive green. We'll call it rosemary green because I added purple to it. So our rosemary green. So that rosemary has little stem, blade, leaf things that go in all the directions. And so we're just going to draw that down like so. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's not forget about these little pieces down here. I'll go ahead and give them that same green color. So there's one rosemary leaf, and there's another one right there. Okay, yep, I like it. That works. Okay, and we also drew some coffee beans down there, so let's get some coffee color, and we're going to kind of fill in these coffee beans with some brown. We will add definition to it here in a little bit. I will probably get like a number 3 brush in order to really add definition to these coffee beans, but base layer brown, done, filled in, calling it good. Okay. I want to work on the color of this, or the shading of this saucer a little bit better. I don't know. Do you ever have one of those moments where you're like, I know what this looks like in my brain, why can't I translate it onto the sheet? Having one of those today. It's okay. Actually, if I start making a lot of videos, which I'm hoping to, you might hear me say that a lot. Because I paint to relax and to have fun. Sometimes I paint to try and enter a competition or to do some sales or something, but most often I'm painting just for relaxation and fun. Most of my paintings end up on cards that I send to friends and family. I'm going to make a darker line right here up underneath the saucer. This is where the saucer meets the table or whatever this is sitting on. I should do maybe a little bit of a shadow line on the inside of this saucer right here so that you can see that it dips down. So I'm going to do just a little bit of that grayish green color that I've been using. We'll do that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I need to add a little, even though the light is coming from that direction, I feel like there needs to be just a little bit of something like that. I don't know. I feel like it needs a little something. There we go. I think that's better. Okay. Let's switch to a smaller brush, and I'm going to add in some darker brown on my coffee beans. I'm just going to, along the bottom where it would be more in the shade, I'm going to add some. Also going to add some along the ridge. Of my coffee bean. So there would be like a little bit of darker there and there. Kind of outline it a little bit so you can see it. This one we're going to pretend the light is hitting it, so it's got a little highlight on it. That looks more bean-like. Then the last thing that I want to do is just go in with a little bit more of a darker green color. I am mixing my coffee color with that olive green in order to just make a slightly deeper green that I'm just going to draw a few lines here and there where my leaves are to show some separation, maybe that some leaves are catching less light than others, and to give it a little bit more definition on my rosemary sprig. Okay, I think that that looks pretty good, and I think we'll go ahead and sign it. I'm going to use the rosemary, the darker rosemary color to sign this. Let me get I'm using a number 3 in order to do this, and trying to just mix up enough and load my brush up enough so that it is juicy enough for a signature. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Until next time.